the whole industry ties the system up. And you know what's going to untie that system and lead to a system of radical environmental reform that will bring environmental impact assessment and environmental approvals back to the position they should be, which is as a major democratic element of our society, and that is a people's movement with people's resistance who say to these companies and to this government, we're prepared to be arrested, we're prepared to suffer, we know the consequences of what we're doing, and until...
My name's Rosemary Lister, and I'm the Professor of Climate and Environmental Law at Sydney Law School, the University of Sydney. I'm also the Director of the Australian Centre for Climate and Environmental Law. This has been a very important conference because for the first time, coal mining and coal seam gas has been put within the framework of the broader environmental justice movement. And what has been very encouraging for everyone who's attended the conference is to see how social movements are developing to protest against mining and coal seam gas with respect to impacts on land, on biodiversity, on water and on people's health.
Environmental justice in the US and elsewhere slowly come around to thinking not just about environmental impacts on human beings, but also about human impacts on the environment and just what it means to be human beings immersed in and dependent on the ecosystems that we are surrounded by and supported by.
In coal, we have some unequivocal evidence that particulate matter can kill people. It's the major cause of preventable death in the Western world, bar none.
We have nothing left. In the Hunter Valley, we have 5% of our country left. Yanco coal tore up the only known birthing site of our people left in the Hunter Valley. Diverted the creek, a creek that was placed there by our Creator to give blood to our people. Gone.
Ongoing anxiety, ongoing stress, ongoing trauma in the community that I live in, that even though we don't need this terminal, even though the companies don't need this terminal.
How alliances are forming between people who would never normally form alliances. So for example, green groups, farmers, community groups, very large groupings of people who together are protesting against their loss of rights.
What's our objective? Our objective is not to shut down coal mining in Australia or even shut down all business activity in the Southern Highlands. It's actually to force the government to tighten the regulations. Clearly, I don't want to be mined under my property and we don't want coal seam gas in our area, but I'm now involved with Drew Hutton behind the scenes, very broadly in the Lock the Gate movement.
And we're using a frame, and this gets back to what I want to finish on, around food security, around water, around community, and around the right to determine the types of futures that people want.
And in addition to that, we've seen how the law is being used to challenge development consents and to challenge the kinds of decisions which are being made around mining and coal seam gas developments.
We also promote access to justice by going out and telling people about the law. In the last 3 years, we've done nearly 100 workshops in rural and regional New South Wales. That's a pretty strong commitment to the work that we do. In the past 12 months, most of those have been in the area of coal mining and coal seam gas. And again, that's a reflection of what people want to know about.
The councils in the outer growth areas of Melbourne were saying at the time that soaring populations have totally outstripped their ability to provide basic infrastructure such as public transport, parks and medical services to these communities. And there was concern, and this is a quote from the article, that we're building suburbs that in 20 years will be ghettos of ill health.
So the law is actually weighted entirely in favour of the mining industries, of the resource industries. If you refuse to negotiate with them in New South Wales, or if you continue to block them in Queensland, you are committing an offence.
So it's encouraging to see that, first of all, social movements, but also access to law are being brought together to enforce people's environmental justice rights. And it's very clear that people and communities such as Lock the Gates is just not going to lie down and accept the fact that they have no rights with respect to these issues such as land, biodiversity, water, and other very important environmental attributes.